Morning, everybody. Mike Naso from PodWeather.com and Internet Partnership Radio with the latest on the tropics as hurricane season 2010 rolls along. It's July 19th, 2010, and typically this time of year when we're talking about potential for tropical cyclone development, it's rather rare to get a storm this time in July. Usually we'll have maybe one or two in June, and then a lot of times it'll be quiet all the way until, say, early to mid-August. In fact, in 2004, we didn't have a single storm until about July 31st, August 1st with Alex 6 years ago. Of course, this year we had Alex in June, which means we're a little ahead of the game as far as comparing to a hurricane season like 2004. However, when we do see development, areas of concern would typically be in the Western Caribbean, where waters are very warm and conditions are usually more favorable, and here near the islands and in the Western Atlantic is where we would be looking for development. So when we look out there today, what do we see? We see two areas. We have an invest area here north of Puerto Rico heading on up towards the west-northwest, and that's invest 97L, and 97 is expected to continue on that general direction towards the Bahamas, South Florida and the Straits and the Keys, and into the Gulf of Mexico. From there is a little uncertain. We also have this area disturbed weather in our other likely tropical formation area this time of year, the Western Caribbean. And this, as you can see on the loop, continues to move to the west-northwest. And even though it's lacking convection right now, it does have a little bit of a spin to it and a much better environment than our invest here to the north and east of it. And this is continuing in this general direction, although it may turn a little bit more west with time. So when we look at our two systems, they're right in the areas where we typically see development this time of year. Now again, as we continue to watch our invest north of Puerto Rico, here it is on the model guidance, just out, just a new invest, and it continues to move to the west-northwest. If you continued that motion for the next few days, it would make landfall, say around West Palm Beach, Florida. However, it is expected to feel the effects of the ridge of high pressure and get pushed a little bit further to the west. You can see some of the BAM models here end up taking the system all the way to Texas. Others head it more towards Mexico, and we'll see exactly where it goes from there. But as far as development's concerned, right now it doesn't look all that impressive. However, the ship's model does make this a hurricane somewhere here in this region of the Gulf of Mexico in about 4 or 5 days' time. And as we've seen in just the last couple of years, we could have systems that are nothing until the Bahamas and become significant systems that we'd have to deal with. Remember, Alex was not that strong when it hit the Yucatan. It was a powerful hurricane, almost a major hurricane, by the time it hit mainland Mexico. And of course, we remember in the horrific hurricane season of '05, we had Katrina develop right here as a depression, and right about here it was a Category 5 hurricane. Rita was right about here as a depression. Right about here is a Category 5 hurricane. So again, even though, trust me, this does not look anything like Katrina and Rita, it's always a little bit nerve-wracking when you get them forming so close to land because you just don't know what they're going to do, and that's always the main concern. Now here's the latest upper level winds, and you can see our system in the Caribbean is really a little bit ill of convection right now. However, look at this upper level pattern over the top of it. It has this beautiful ventilation, especially on the right side, and that might help give it a little bit of a spin that we've been seeing. However, as it continues on towards the west-northwest and the northwest, and probably eventually back to the west, this is likely to be in a much more favorable area for development, and it looks like this could become a system in the southern Gulf of Mexico or the Bay of Campeche. This system, our invest, is under about 40 knots of wind shear right now. However, as it moves west-northwest, wind shear will decrease, waters will increase in temperature, and the system will have an opportunity to strengthen. And if it does become a storm, we would then probably be dealing with a track, at least as of what the models show right now, right up through the Turks Caicos, Central Bahamas, Florida Straits, into the Gulf of Mexico. From there, it's anybody's guess, but again, it could interact with Hispaniola and cause heavy rains, as well as Cuba. It could end up moving a lot further to the north, as some of the models suggest. Right now, we just don't know. Here's another far look of the wind shear tendencies, and you can see again our invest is sitting right here, and obviously that's not a favorable area for development at all. However, the area that's not yet an invest is sitting over the very favorable conditions. Even off in the Gulf of Mexico, they're favorable. So I know our invest is our system up here, and that's what the models are running. The models are showing a minimal hurricane, at least the ship's model is. Not too many of them have jumped onto that yet. However, the area in the Western Caribbean is very interesting, and that could be a situation down the line that we'd have to worry about as well along the South Texas and Mexico coastline if that transpires, and we'll wait and see just if that happens or not. Now again, the latest GFS run doesn't do much with our system. It doesn't do much with it at all. You can see it kind of just takes moisture towards Florida the next several days and doesn't really show much of our system here in the Bay of Campeche from the Caribbean. That's pretty much all the GFS shows. However, it does show in about 10 days a wave moving off Africa, and within about 2 weeks' time, it is a tropical storm or hurricane here approaching the islands, and under this pattern here, we would likely be looking at a continued track right up on this direction, which would mean land masses further to the west. And then you can see another low moving off further down. Now I know that's long range, but what that's saying is that by the time we get, say, August 5th or so, we're probably going to be dealing with a lot of tropical activity, and it's going to come fast. Like I mentioned, 2004, the hurricane season 2004, we didn't have Alex until August 1st. By the time August ended, I believe we were on Hermine. So that goes to show how active August can be, and we'll see if that occurs this year. Again, right now we're already ahead of 2004, having already had a hurricane, Hurricane Alex. And again, if we look where we are at, actually, we're right about here, July 19th or so, right in here, and the average is for about one storm, just about, and we had one hurricane. So we're actually a little bit above average with the hurricane activity, but you can see we're right about average, if not even a little above. So this already has been a crazy hurricane season. Alex caused quite a bit of devastation as it took its track through the Caribbean Sea. And again, when we look at where we are climatologically speaking, check this out. We're right here. Right here. Look at this upslope we have coming towards September 10th. That is the peak of hurricane season, and that means we're going to have to deal with a lot of systems this year. It certainly appears that way. Now, again, we haven't really seen too much in the way of activity off Africa. You can see the satellite there now. We do have one wave that left, but it has moved off to the northwest and isn't doing anything. But look at what's blowing up over land here. Look at that. Look at that nasty little swirl there. That is at a good latitude here to potentially move off Africa in, I'd say, maybe 2 days. And if it keeps up any kind of spin like it has, it could be a player down the road that we'd have to deal with. And nobody wants to have to deal with that. No doubt about that whatsoever. But again, the main focus of the tropics, and I haven't seen you in a few weeks, so I just want to stop by and tell you what we got. We do have Invest 97L sitting here north of Puerto Rico. The current motion is off towards the west-northwest, which is keeping it away from land. But there is strong wind shear impacting it. If it can survive, it will continue in a general direction like that, and we will see what happens. One model, ship's model, 64 knots, that's a minimal hurricane by the time it gets to the North Gulf Coast. A long, long time to watch it. Take that with a grain of salt. Our other system here in the Caribbean, not showing too much life, but definitely a favorable environment with it, and we'll see if it can carry this environment into the Gulf of Mexico, and if we will get a system out of that. We'll see what happens, and we'll keep an eye on it. That'll do it for the tropics this time. I'm Mike Naso from podweather.com. I'll see you next time.